Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So the other day when we were shooting the Dollar Tree fashion video, I didn't get a lot of chance to spend talking about the lighting setup and how we lit those images. So what I wanted to do today was just take a few minutes, kind of chit chat about how we set up the lighting. It was really a very simple one light setup for the most part. So take a look at how we set up the lighting, why it worked like it did, how you can do this in your studio or at home, and then we're going to do some image reviews to kind of show you what the finished product looked like after we do the lighting kind of explanation demo here. So basically I took the front diffuser off this softbox because I wanted to kind of show how this works, because when we were shooting, the model was actually positioned here behind the softbox. The softbox is a good 2 foot in front of me. All right, so traditionally, most of your softbox power, your light coming out the front, is going to go across. But my model back here was extremely well lit. This is what we call feathering, okay? If you take a look inside of the softbox here, our flash tube's up in here, and it's a round flash tube, so it's emanating light. When it goes off, it's emanating light in a 360-degree pattern inside of this box. As you can see, the inside of this box is a silver reflective material. And so what that does is direct light is very harsh. If you take a light bulb and just kind of shine it on somebody's face, that's a very harsh light, and it's not terribly pleasing to the eye. By bouncing the light in the softbox, and it will bounce around hundreds, thousands of times potentially before it actually exits the softbox. So as it is emanated from the flash tube, it starts bouncing around before it finally comes out. So the more times it bounces around, the softer it gets. All right? So inside the box, you got your flash tube, you've got your silver reflective lining. Now, not all soft boxes have the silver reflective lining. Some of them have, like this one. This one has a white reflective lining in it. So it does the same purpose, but there's a difference between white and silver. The silver is a little bit sharper light. It's going to give you a little bit more specular highlights. It's a little bit harsher light. The white is a little bit softer light. So when you're choosing soft boxes, got to kind of think about how you want the light to look in your image, and then pick the right modifier based upon the interior color as well as size, shape, and how it affects the light. So this one is a silver. It has an inner diffuser so that as the light is bouncing it around, it passes through the inner diffuser and then the outer diffuser. So it's double diffused, which softens that light up quite a bit. Really makes a big difference. So out of one modifier, if you were to take this out, you can change the look of the light. So you could shoot this just as a wide open box, silver, no diffuser, inner or outer. You can shoot it with just the inner or just the outer or both. So one tool can be set up different ways. Now, the big thing that to think about is, again, most of your light's going to be coming straight out of this box. We had our model back here. She was behind the box, probably 3 foot off of the backdrop. And so what I was trying to do was play with the shadows and control where the shadows go. Because the light is bouncing and hitting here and then coming out, you literally have light that will come out of the softbox all the way to this edge. So this edge, if you take a look at the images, you can see where the edge of the softbox was, because everything behind it's going to be in shadow. Now, it's not going to be totally dark, because as that light comes out, it's going to bounce off the ceiling, it's going to bounce off the walls, it's going to bounce off of the model and be kicked back over to this side. But you'll see this part of the image, the shadows, then you come into light, and then you come back into shadow. And that's because the model standing here is going to absorb this light, but there's light coming behind the model. It's bouncing out the side, and that's hitting the background back here, lighting it up, and the angle that it's coming at will then cast a shadow from the model on the wall over here. So you're going to see shadow, light, and shadow. And that's kind of the look we were going for. So the other piece that we used was a reflector. So we had this guy, had a silver cover on it, and that was positioned directly across from the softbox, at a slight bit of an angle to kick up a little light up into the model's face to kind of fill in the shadows under the eyes, under the nose, under the chin, and give us a little bit more pleasing shadow on the face. We didn't want to eliminate them because we wanted the shadows, but we wanted to kind of soften them up and fill them in a little bit. And so we did that with a reflector that was directly across from the model. And then we did have a strip light, I think 12 by 56, that's back here in the corner that we were using for a kind of a rim light, hair light on some of the pictures. We didn't use it very much. I really liked just the one light and the reflector setup to give me the shadows that I was looking for. So positioning your box, your modifier, makes a big difference. Your light's going to look a whole lot different if you've got your model facing straight up at a 45-degree angle, which is kind of a typical portraiture Rembrandt lighting kind of setup. But you don't have to have that box even pointed at your model. Because of the properties of light, how it bounces and comes out, you can use that to feather and then turn your box to get the desired result. Again, you're going to have light coming out of this box all the way to the edge. So it doesn't matter, this is a 60-inch, you can do this with a 48, a 36, a 24. They all kind of act the same. And the shadows that they throw, the edge they throw is slightly different, but not a ton. So it doesn't have to be a big box like this. It can be a smaller box. So hope that was helpful. We're going to jump over to the computer and take a look at some images to kind of show you what this looks like in action on the images. All right, guys. So now we've got the images kind of pulled up on the screen here. And now you can, if you take a look at the detail, you can kind of see what we were talking about in relative position to the softbox. So if you look at the model's face, coming right across here, we see the shadows starting to form. So that means our box was coming from her right side and slightly in front of her. And you can see the evidence of that because if you look to this side, the farther you go away, the more shadow there is. Because again, that box is placed pretty much even, kind of right in here, kind of right in the middle of this frame. And so everything behind that is going to be in shadow. Everything on this side is going to be receiving light from the softbox as it bounces off that wall and comes out at an angle. So it fills in behind the model. But then as it hits the model, it gets absorbed. And you can see then that as we come across the frame, we start to see the shadow pick up again because the model's body is blocking that light, and so we get the shadow. And you can actually see it up here, and then the shadow comes in a little bit versus up here because our model's wider, our legs are turned a little bit more sideways or in this way, and this leg is brought in. So this part of the shadow actually comes over a little bit compared to what's up here. So you can see just by altering and turning that softbox. So if we've got that softbox facing this way and we turn it, that's going to open it up and put a little more light on the model, and it's going to bring the shadow back this way. Okay? But because we were perpendicular to the model, that line is pretty straight. That's the edge of the softbox there. The light's coming in from the side, hitting her. She takes it out with her body, and then you can see the shadow come back in as we move across the frame. So same kind of thing here. Because we changed up the model's position, the light didn't move. What changed is the model's position. So if we go back to this first image, broad shoulders, she's facing more straight up to the camera, so she's catching more light. It's a broader obstruction to the light getting to the background. Now we move over here where we've angled the model. We've made her thinner. So now you can see the shadows are still here, but now this is so much brighter coming up here because we've angled the model and she's not blocking as much of the light. So you can really play with your shadows based upon your modifier position on your light and the position of your subject. That's what's going to control where your shadows are going. Again, we're a little wider down here because we've got our legs, they're a little spread apart. We've got the dress. And so if you actually look at the shadows again, they're here and they kind of start to come in because they're more blocked with the lower part of the body. Okay, again, right here, the highlights of the light are hitting the forehead, the face, down through the shoulder, this arm, and the back of the dress. Lights coming in from the side. Because this is all furled out like a flag, you can see down here, very dark compared to up here where that light doesn't have anything standing in its way of getting there. So for this image, we kept the exact same light setup. We just brought the modifier down to be at the same level as the model. Okay? Again, you're going to see, because this image we were a tad bit closer to the background, you're not going to see as much of a difference. You do see a little bit here down at the bottom of the image. The shadow, a little bit lighter in the middle, and then the shadow, but because we're down lower, we don't have as much room for that light to get around her. The shadows are a little bit more consistent and even. Same thing here. We pulled her out from the background, and when we did that, we kept the box perpendicular to the background, but brought it a little bit forward so we don't have near as much light falling on the background. So this one, the background is completely in shadow because we've kind of kept the light off of it, except for some spill. So it gives us a little different image. Darkens up that background, draws the eye's focus right here to the model's face, right down the arm, the legs. We want that shape, that nice S-curve shape in her body. So everything is nice and curvy, which is the way the body was supposed to be. That's the way it's the most pleasing to the eye and the most attractive to us. So we kept that S-curve in the body, and off we went. Then this one for the close-up, again, we're really focused on her. So we've changed our depth of field. We're not looking at the background as much. It is slightly lighter back there. But again, now that we're on the ground and we brought that modifier down, we don't have as much of a down angle. And so there's not as much opportunity for the light to get behind her because of how we have the model positioned and how we have the light positioned. So we've got a more uniform background. It is a slightly darker on this side, a little over here because you have that spill that gets behind the model. But again, changing position of the model and a slight change in position of the light completely changes how that light falls on your subject and on your background. So that's kind of the review of the images and kind of a little bit of an overview of the light setup. All right, guys, so that's kind of a review of the light setup that we used for this shoot, kind of the hows and whys behind how it worked, the physics of it. I mean, it is pretty simple physics. Light bounces certain ways, and once you learn to master that, the quality of your images goes way up. So hopefully this was helpful. Hopefully taking a look at the equipment, how it was set up, and then the responding images was useful, so that you can kind of start to see the light and figure out how you want to use light to do your images. So, like I said, if this was useful, please like and subscribe, ring the bell so that you get notified when we post new videos, because we're going to have several more videos. We've got several shoots coming up that we're going to video and kind of do behind the scenes and how did we make it happen kind of stuff. And we appreciate you tuning in, guys. Thank you very much, and look forward to seeing you on the next one.